Greetings.
Wretched slugs. Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
That's what's up. My bad. Yes, we're gonna speak on this. One of the greatest movies of all time. Rest in peace, Val Kilmer. If you haven't seen Tombstone, you got to see it. It's not only one of the greatest westerns of all time, but just one of the greatest movies of all time. And his performance is one of the greatest performances. Me and my folks, we quote the verses in there like scripture. But that having been said, greetings and salutations, Focus Up family. Welcome to the April 5, 2025 installment of the Focus Up Show. We thank you for tuning in with us live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube and various other platforms. Catching up with us on replay. We ask you to click that like, that subscribe, that bell, and share to support and maintain your weekly Focus Up fix. I am Mr. Nice Guy. Nice as in the word saint spelled backwards. And today, it's a little bare bones. First Lady J, she's supposed to be coming in. Brother Walk, he's doing some things. Didn't you run into Brother Walk?
Yeah, I got Walkie right here. He's right here. He said he wanted to get on the show today. He has something to say. Where is he at?
Let's get him, girls.
He said he's doing this thing. He's taking the day off, so that's Walk. He was doing this thing.
Yes, he'll probably be in the comments saying something. And brother Student X, he'll be popping in, so he's got something to say. And brother Alpha Agnostics, he's doing some stuff. He's on a cruise, but he's giving me some information to read for him on some of these topics. So his presence will be felt. And Infamous El Poo, it's got work to do, so that's why we won't have that spin that back. But we will have Mutant Politics with Student X, and we're gonna go in on some things, some things. So that having been said, let's get to the get. Hey, shout out to Mark Cram. I need to read it to get his name properly. The sixth, you know what I'm saying? So salute to you, brother, for always tapping in. So Mr. Floyd X, what's going on with you?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling in Sacramento, doing what it do. I ain't got nothing planned this weekend, but just ready to get the show going. I want to speak on Val Kilmer. He's a great actor. The movie Heat was a killer movie. I was one of my favorite movies. It was so impactful. The violence in that movie was top-notch violence. Like, wow, the murders, the killings, the shootings, the explosions. Because it was based off of a real event that happened. It was based off of a real event, and Val Kilmer played his role along Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Come on, man. Yeah. Great movie. And then everybody, that I'll be your huckleberry. That's a line that everybody remember. Val Kilmer was an excellent actor. I couldn't do Top Gun. I put the planes in the back in honor of Val Kilmer, but Top Gun wasn't my movie. Top Gun, the Maverick, the old one and the new one. I tried to watch them. I can't do that. And even though I was in the military, but I wasn't moved by those movies. What's your take on those movies, Mr. Nice Guy?
Hey, Top Gun, I mean, it was kind of a typical, nice 80s type movie with, you got to understand, if you were there was a certain vibe, a certain way that people talk to each other disrespectfully, the whole bully dynamic, all of that type of stuff, the competition, the testosterone, that was like, really 80s. So, Top Gun, that was dope to me. I saw Maverick. I thought it was dope. I love how people can come back to a story and kind of be nostalgic. And it's not just fan service, that they actually create some type of, moving content. So I actually thought it was dope. I thought it was dope that he had an age-appropriate woman. You know what I'm saying? We always have these old guys with these super young women, but shout out to Tom Cruise for manifesting that and giving us Val Kilmer one last time. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up. So I appreciate it. But let me just go back to Tombstone again. Let me tell you. Just go see it. That's all I got to say. I'm not gonna spoil nothing. Just go. If you haven't seen it, and I'm telling you right now, no matter what I'm doing, if it comes on, I'm gonna sit down and watch it unless I got something pressing to do. That's just how I feel about it.
That's
so
right.
That having been said, salute to that brother. And then we lost another person. Actually, there's a whole nother person we need to bring up. So we lost. We need to talk about Pow Wow. But I was gonna say, rest in peace to Gomac. From Above the Law. Above the Law was a dope ass hip hop group, West Coast hip hop group. And again, they were, even though they were West Coast, they kind of really tapped in sort of like that sampley East Coast underground sound as well. So, I got tremendous respect for Above the Law. Rest in peace, Go Mac. It's sad to see our peers, just falling off, but like that Bill Burr comedy special he's got going on, drop dead age, we're at that age where, you drop dead and it's just a thing. So, rest in peace to that brother. Our condolences to his family and, salute to his legacy. So then let's talk about Pow Wow. Don't got the picture. I should have put that up there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, my bad. I got lost for a second. I got lost in the ethers trying to go back and forth. But I found my way back. I hopped on one of them jets and made it back. I'm back in the game. Hey, rest in peace to Go Mac from Above the Law, one of my favorite West Coast groups. I think this is my opinion. I think they wasn't as pivotal because they was who came up along or in the line of NWA. I think that's why they wasn't as big or as popular. I mean, they're very popular. Everybody liked it, but I'm just saying that they was overshadowed by NWA in my opinion. But Go Mac, 187, and what's the other brother? The other one that passed away? My bad, I can't remember his name. It was Go Mac.
You talking about I'm sorry.
KMD or KMD or something like that. But rest in peace to brother Go Mac, man. They make good music, and I respect and appreciate them brothers. They represented the West Coast well. What you want to talk on next? You want to speak on Pow Wow?
I wanted to speak on Pow Wow. I was trying to grab a picture right quick. Here it goes.
I think I got it.
Oh, you got one? Okay.
Let me see. Nope, that's not it. I got Pow Wow. Yeah.
There we go. Rest in peace.
So Sonic Force.
Pow Wow. G-O-L-O-V-E. Yeah, it's just you got to understand. Oh, there we go. First of all, let's welcome in the lovely First Lady J. I was going to click on it, but I don't want to throw her out if you try to click her on the same time. Welcome to the party, First Lady J.
Morning, fellas. Sorry I'm tardy to the party, but I'm here.
All right.
As long as you get in, you always fit in. So that haven't been said.
Hey, First Lady. J-Walk said good morning too. He right here.
Let's get them, girls. Body.
He said he gonna get on the show somehow.
Oh, wow. All righty then.
So how are you doing there, sister, First Lady J?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. Glad to be here amongst the living, I will say.
Right.
So we're talking about the legendary Soul Sonic Force, Planet Rock. How much of a bop, how much of a groove is that song for you?
Planet Rock?
Yeah, maybe I'm.
Wait, no, I know the song. It just caught me off guard.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. Okay, this is one of the OG sort of like hip hop joints, but it was the song that translated over to the speed. So when you had all that stuff going on with Uncle Jam's Army, Egyptian Lover, we're doing that sort of like faster type dynamic. This was a throwback to basically what Soul Sonic Force was doing it with Planet Rock. I mean, this song, notwithstanding the ugly situations that played out, with Africa Bambaataa, is still a legendary song. It says, hold up, what's wrong with a man having a younger woman? Nothing's wrong with a man having a younger woman. We're just talking about the age disparity. It's okay with having a woman that's not young too. That's what I'm trying to say. There you go. Walk. Top Gun Mavericks. He puts your clothes back on. Top Gun Mavericks won on an Academy Award Best Sound. So yeah, that's what's up. So there you go. Mark Carm the stick, so I can say it properly. Say good morning, First Lady J. So but anyways, this song, legendary song, was always going to get the party going. As a DJ, this is a song that you loved back in my day. In your back pocket, you knew that you was getting everybody off the floor with that. And like I said, the Pow Wow, that was a big part of the song. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So again, one of the OG original hip hop groups that covered all the elements. Salute to Brother Powwow, his legacy, and the Soul Sonic Force.
Sir, yes, sir. Now let's jump to the brother Young Scooter. This a rest in peace to Young Scooter. Also, we I think we missed it last week. As far as I don't know, think we spoke about it on the show, but as the story unfolds, we find out that he wasn't killed by the police, according to them, but he was running from the police and he jumped the gate or something, sliced the an artery or something, and bled out. And then it was later determined that the reason that the police arrived to the house was because a lady swatted him. Young Scooter was swatted. And if you don't know what swatting is, here's the definition. Swatting, the action or practice of making a prank call to emergency services in the attempt to bring dispatch of a large number of armed police officers to a particular address. That's what this sister did. She called him. I wish I should have got a clip of the call. I had it, but I forgot to upload it. But she called and said, "There's some men out here." And the reason she called, real quick, the reason she called was because her boyfriend was at the party and she was jealous that she wasn't, because Scooter was celebrating his 39th birthday party. So she was jealous that she wasn't there. So she called the police, said, "There's a woman out here. She's naked." And the guy hit her in the head. He let off shots. I think that they're holding a prostitution ring in there. She has a baby involved. They're hitting her over the head. She's bleeding profusely. Y'all need to hurry up and get to this address. And so the police came out, knocked on the door. The brother Young Scooter or somebody opened the door, saw it was police, and slammed the door. And then they ran out the back door. I don't know what they was doing in there, but it was supposed to be a party or no. I don't know. So they running from the police. The brother bled out. How do you feel about that, nice guy? With this and the actions of his sister?
I mean, you got to understand the reason why with the Karen situation, why it was so bad. Just bringing the police into a situation with a black person, particularly with a black male, it's a dangerous situation. This is no just little thing. And then, when you're talking about a swatting as far as a collective armed presence, that's already worked up because they have this narrative that's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely life endangering. And as it turned out, this dude had kind of a crazy Final Destination type situation, but this is the fallout. Somebody actually died behind your dumbass, stupid ass joke. This girl should be, what I'm going to say. The bottom line is she should no longer be with us. Leave it at that. So first lady.
But real quick, I want to ask, when you keep saying Final Destination, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so if you ain't watched ever the Final Destination movies, usually the whole premise is that that death is going to find you, and if you escape death, if you escape your destiny, the death is going to find some elaborate way to get you with your circumstances. You telling me that a guy is just running, just happens to slit his leg and then bleeds out? I mean, this is like that sister from Brownstone, who, literally, or I don't know if it was Brownstone or Jay, but literally she was just drinking some wine in a wine glass. She fell and slipped, and it ended up, the glass broke, cut her throat, whatever, and she bled out and died. She died from drinking wine in her home. So again, that's Final Destination type stuff situation. But it's absolutely terrible. And this lady, she doesn't deserve a lick of sympathy. I don't care about your apologies. I don't care about nothing. Under the jail. First Lady Jane, what's your take on this?
I wish the community could have gotten a hold of her before the police. That's my thought on it, especially the family, because it was I'm not a big fan of violence, but if that was my child, I probably would be in jail too, because I probably would be trying to retaliate towards her family, unfortunately. And yes, I said that live.
Family, whole family. But yeah.
Well, it was she was known, and people, she was on a show, I think it was called Baddies or something like that, or Bad Girls Club. And she was trying to get her popularity up, and people recognized her as soon as they started calling her out, as soon as they heard when the police released the call, because they didn't know who it was. And people was like, "Oh, that's so-and-so." And that's how they got it. So As of right now, she has been arrested, and she's looking. I forget the time she could face. It's like I think it's like 5 years or something. She's
That's
looking at
it.
if convicted. If
That's
I'm not
it.
mistaken, yeah, it's 5 years because you know.
Some of
That's
these
what
places have obscure, crazy laws that you can't really, finagle them and manipulate them, because in the right situation, she definitely would get like, some type of attempted murder, accessory to murder, something with way greater exposure than 5 years. Hey, if I was the people on the other side of that, and I was the family of young Scooter, I wish you get 5 years, because guess what? I'm waiting for you when you get out. That sentence is just beginning. But that having been said, I don't know how much more we want to say about it, but it's an absolute tragedy. Damn, brother running from the police, it does make he said woman scorn. What did she even have a connection to him?
No, her boyfriend was at the party. He's a member of his entourage or his crew or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who she was focused on. She had nothing to do with him directly. It was the boyfriend, or her boyfriend was there. And that's what she called just a young. I think she was like 22 or 24, somewhere around there. Just young and dumb, man. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Sad.
Yep.
And we need to put this out. We need to put this out because people need to learn about it. Young people think you can just do anything and not have repercussions and consequences. But this is reality. Someone died behind this foolishness, and it's not okay. You don't just get to say I'm sorry. That's not going to bring that brother back on his birthday.
That's
on
crazy.
his birthday.
Wow.
Yep. Shoot, let's move forward to the next one, Mr. Nice Guy.
All right. Now, this story has taken a little bit of a turn. When we first heard this story, the whole premise and setup was the fact that, this man had like 3 children. I forgot the age differences, but, one of them I think was a 2-year-old. One of them might have been a 10. Go ahead. You got the ages?
10, 6, and 1.
10, 6, and 1. Okay, 1.
Yeah.
Ouch, 1.
Yeah, that's
Leave
a 1-year-old boy.
I can kind of work with 2. I can kind of work with a 2 with a 10 there, but a 1, But again, this is a messy situation, and it's kind of a callback to a day when a lot of times we did have like young people watching over people. You have latchkey kids. That's not a justification for things that were done in those days. But the whole situation was the premise was that he did this to go to do a job interview, and there was a lot of social uproar about whether this was justified. Just understanding that the guy has bad circumstances. You got brother Antonio Brown setting up a GoFundMe, to support this brother, have a sympathy for him. Then you start hearing some information where maybe that job interview wasn't the whole thing. Because he said he turned in an application.
Yeah.
He turned in an application, and then they said he was waiting for a callback. Now we all understand how job stuff works. You know what I'm saying? That's just not how that plays out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As far as turning an application in, there's no justification for this. This is
what you think about it?
First
What
Lady
you think?
J.
Yeah, what you think about it, First Lady? Man, leaving his children at McDonald's for an hour.
I felt like it was wrong. I felt like if it was a job interview, he meant well, but at the same time, we have things called safe havens where, if he needed someone to watch the kid that bad for a job, if it was for his family, he would have been better off reaching out to the local fire department or contacting the police. I say this a lot of times. One mistake can lead to a lifetime of pain. It's just like a person saying that, I didn't want her to have the baby. I wasn't trying to get her pregnant, but you didn't use protection. So now you have to deal with it for life. If that 1-year-old, something would have happened to that 1-year-old child, for instance, a 10-year-old doesn't really know what to do in an emergency besides call 911. And you have all these outsiders looking in. I feel like the dad was old enough to know better.
Yeah.
And listening to what Mr. Nice Guy said, that it really was just an application thing. Well, you could have taken your kids with you to drop off that application. What's that movie Will Smith was in? Remember he had
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes. You do what you have to do. Sometimes you never know, an employer will respect you more. Like they really wanted this, even though it's kind of like a double standard. Like, well, will they have a babysitter? If I gave them the job, but you just never know. It's like some people will come to a job interview with the clothes that they have on and not suited and booted. And I don't know where the mother was, but I understand she came later. So why didn't you call mom to begin with as well? So there are so many questions that I had when I saw the video.
One
Is
thing,
this
one,
question?
one thing I do know, this could not have been his first time doing that. I know he did it before. And also one more thing, this is a good time to advertise that we have to Focus Up. We have some Focus Up fries at McDonald's. Go to McDonald's, order the Focus Up fries, and come back and tell us what they say.
The lies you tell with Focus Up fries.
Oh man.
All right.
So that's that situation. So what we got up next?
The ex-con.
Ex-cons, X and out X's. Okay, so very close to me, like literally right down the street, a lady and I guess her daughter were killed, like like shot, like on Central and over there by forgot, but basically it's over there by the smoke shop, the AMPM, it's over there by Alonch. It's Caldwell, it's the street. But
Caldwell.
Caldwell, yeah. But this shooting happened. The woman and the mother and the daughter were killed, and the information came out after the fact that this was actually like I think it was like the husband or the ex-boyfriend or something like that. But I mean, I think he just got out of jail, and it's like this is the type of situation where you have these relationships, you want a person to get out of jail, they get out of jail, and then something crazy like this happens. And this isn't the only one. There's another situation where literally ladies posting like, oh, my baby's getting out of jail, you know what I'm saying? And literally like 24, 48 hours later, he killed the mother and the son. So, I mean, this whole sort of like ex-con coming out, exposing yourself, and it is a testament to maybe the institution, what's going on as far as, the mindset of people leaving that institution. But I mean, you got to have some type of protections in this, for this to prevent this to the extent that it can be. What's your take on this? Go ahead.
Let me say this. Like, listen, we know that all ex-cons ain't killers and criminals and going to want to do harm to people. Not all of them, but when you're interacting or dealing with a person, whether it's a male or female, you can gauge and understand their propensity for violence. And you have to be able to assess, like, nope, this is not a good situation. And get up out of there. Don't interact or deal with these people. So coming out of jail and killing your whole family, it's a sad situation. And we know that the sister in Chicago, the singer lady, had this same situation. I can't remember.
Jennifer Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson. That's what happened to her mother, her sister, her nephew. He killed a whole slew of them. It was a sad situation, but y'all got to know when y'all get around these violent people, they show it. They show the violence in them. And you got to be like, no, this fool can't come around my family.
But you have some cases where that may be the case where they're not dealing with them anymore. And that's an issue. A person may not be dealing with that ex-con or the ignorant person, and the person is upset because of that reason, and they go after the family. There are a lot of cases like that too. I understand exactly what you're saying, Mr. Floyd X, but some cases people just snap and they don't care. They're angry. Like Walk mentioned, a woman scorned. Well, now same thing, men get scorned too. And they retaliate. I really don't know if the lady was still with her ex at the time. I just know she was 45 and her daughter was 22, and they lost their life because of what? Is it because she didn't want to be with him anymore? We just don't know. But it's sad. So how do you protect someone like that when you really don't know? So protection, that's a big question mark. How do you protect an ex-con getting out? The same with the mom, the son killing a 15-year-old and his mom. Like, how that's going to happen? We can't predict it. We know they have some bad behavior going on, but to take your own loved ones.
Hey, me and my wife. Well, my wife really watches these shows, and you see all the time that there's a lot of signs. A lot of these people are showing you who they are and what they are, and it's just a matter of time before it plays out as ugly as it plays out. So, in those situations, you got to read the tea leaves. You got to get out of the situation, protect yourself to the extent that you can. I understand not everybody's got guns and discipline and the willingness to use them to protect themselves. So, not everybody has those assets and whatnot, but I'm just saying. But that having been said, Brother Afro Agnosis does have something to say on this particular topic. So he said, no way do I condone leaving a 1-year-old under supervision of a 10-year-old in an uncontrolled environment for 2+ hours. Unacceptable. Big Brother circumstances speaks to a larger problem. Unaffordable childcare and other social safety nets that MAGA is dismantling. I don't think this brother should be fined or arrested or sentenced. He should be given support and an opportunity, if completed, would commute his sentence. This was basically my position as well. It's sort of like a no harm, no foul type situation. I mean, now that I have a little more details, I probably have less sympathy. But, in that type of situation, I'm only willing to drop a hammer on him if something actually did bad happen to the children. But, that's
I'm gonna read a letter from Mr. Walk. He wrote, block Brother Afro Agnostic and stop using my joke.
So, all right, so that's that one. So what do we got up next?
Let's jump to Liberation Day, man. Wait, no, I forgot. Yeah. I forgot what I want to speak on. Let's jump to the commercials. Then when we come back, let's go straight to Liberation Day. I want to speak on Liberation Day. So we're going to jump to the commercial. Brother Student X, this is your time to come in about 3 minutes. But let's jump to the commercials. I'm working on new commercials. I promise y'all, I'm working on new commercials. I know y'all tired of seeing the same old. La Brea Trucking for all of your trucking needs. East Coast to West Coast, West Coast to East Coast, North to South, South to West. Y'all saw the number at the end. You got something you need delivered. Call La Brea Trucking.
That's Go Beat. I saw you bopping to the music. My bad. But that's gobeatalive.org. Go get you some of that black honey. And you know what? If you want to get, go ahead. What are you about to say?
I was gonna say Jay Walk said he liked that beat.
Let's get them, girls. Body.
See, we represent you, Walk. So anyways, but if you want to get some of that honey in person, go to the Petty Vice in Venice, or take yourself to the Afro City Marketplace at the Crenshaw Mall. Honestly, the Afro City Marketplace got a lot of things going on. But that having said, go get you some of that black honey. Support Sister Nidra.
When I return, I'll have a bevy of new jokes and material for y'all to butcher, shaking my head, laugh out loud. All right, Mr. Walt.
And you know what? It turns out he is protesting Walmart and Target. So, okay. I wasn't joking. Cool. But for different reasons. So that haven't been said yet. But go ahead and that Sex Talk with Walk Saturday at 9 p.m. for grown heterosexual conversations.
And if you watch the show, Mr. Walk said he'll teach you how to dance.
Let's get 'em, girls.
All right, let's get to it. We got our brother Student X live from the dojo. He ready to get in here and speak on this Trump. Let's jump to Liberation Day. Anybody feel liberated? Tuesday was Liberation Day. Anybody? No, was it Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday?
My investment finances were liberated, but yeah.
Anybody feel liberated today? First Lady, are you liberated?
Excuse me.
All right. So
what his thing say? Ninja, please. Did I read that correctly?
we got dojo.
Okay.
Ninja, please. Okay. But look, let me say this real quick. Some people on the market was calling it Obliteration Day because we obliterated the market. That's not an original thought of mine. That came from somebody on the news. Said somebody on the stock market said Obliteration Day, and that's what happened. Basically, the stock market was obliterated. Last I checked, it was down. The Dow Jones was down 1,700 or something like that. So Brother Charles, Student X. Well, what would you like to say about Liberation Day? Do you feel liberated, brother?
Yeah, no, I can't say I feel liberated particularly, but I like to just throw a shout out, to the you brothers, and of course, our sister Lady J, and just say what's up. And it's good to see you all as always. And then transitioning into exactly what we're referencing now is, this is what I will say is that, I don't know. I'm not an economics, professor, if you will, and can really, say exactly how things are going to go down. But one thing seems obvious is that it seems like it's going to obliterate an old system, and then something new is going to be resurrected. Let me tell you what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Trump's terrorist plan and how it's going to impact the middle class. And he brings up a very important point. He says that the top 10% of Americans own 88% of the equities and 88% of the stock market. The top 10%. The next 40% own 12% of the stock market. But the remaining 50% are those that have debt, in particular credit card debt and bills. Many of them rent their homes. They have auto loans, and what the Trump administration is saying is that this is whom we're going to see get some relief ultimately, from these efforts. Now I know a lot of people bring up the point that, Trump mentioned how things are going to go down or whatnot. And those who support Trump, they know, how, his exaggerations are oftentimes, we take with a grain of salt in terms of, understanding that, hey, he is optimistic.
Since you brought it up, brother, let's run the clip.
One on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
If I win, we will rapidly defeat inflation, and I will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable. We got to bring those costs down. They call it groceries. Bacon, lettuce, tomato, everything is so much higher than it ever was, and we're going to bring that down. On day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We're going to take care of inflation and quickly, and we're going to get those prices coming down very, very substantially and very quickly. We've got to get those costs down, and I'm going to get them down. We're going to bring those costs way down. When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Yeah, right. The prices he brought down were the stocks.
I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm about to
say. So again, so when Trump says these things, just like he said that the day one when he steps into office, this war with Russia is gonna be over. People who support Trump take that to mean that, look, these are his priorities. This is mission focus, and this will have his attention. No one believed that these things were going to happen overnight. No one did. Among his supporters, despite his rhetoric. So let me make that clear. But like I said, go ahead, Brother Floyd. I'm sorry.
When you say things like that, exaggeration, how come we don't just say he's lied? He lied.
Because it's not that, lie implies that there's an intent to deceive. You know,
that's what he
in
did.
this case, you know, I believe, you
He
know, many
deceived
believe that
everybody.
Trump's intentions are to bring prices down and to
Day
end this
one.
war in Ukraine. That's what many people believe. You
Day
know what I mean?
one.
Now, ultimately, you know, it wasn't going to happen, you know, the next day. Again, you know, those that support Trump, they take it to understand, okay, this is a high priority. This is something that he is going to get done, you know, and that's what,
And
so if it doesn't get done, you know what I mean, there's a problem.
They accept his lies. They say, okay, yeah, he's not. He meant what he meant by day one. Day one is the first year of his president. They'll make a reasoning for him. The first year, no, he meant the first 2 years. After when it's 2 years gonna go by and the shit gonna still be shit canned.
I tell you exactly what they thinking. Exactly what they thinking. You can ask any one of them, and they will agree with what I'm saying. You know, so. But again, going back to these tariffs, we're gonna get deeper into it on mutant politics today as well. You know, in particular, you know, hopefully our brother, you know, Yusuf, you know, who's been alive on a couple of big podcasts, you know, this past week, past couple weeks, you know, and basically, you know, he want all the smoke because even myself, I have, you know, many criticisms, you know, on Trump, you know, and decisions that he's made, you know, to date. You know, like, you know, quite frankly, I give him a D plus to F on foreign policy and probably a C plus on domestic policy right now. You know, but you know, Yusuf, you know, he's our Trump whisperer. You know, he feels that he has a great understanding into the thinking and the mind of Trump. So I'm curious to see what he has to say. And if not, we're gonna just still talk about, you know, some of these issues.
So I guess the brother La Brea Trucking, our brother, salute to brother La Brea Trucking. He says, well, don't say it. I'm sure he's talking about Trump making all these false promises or BS promises that I like to call them BS promises. And he just said, if you don't mean it, don't say it. That's how I think what he means.
All due respect to my brother La Brea Trucking, and I love the brother, you know, and I can't wait to when one day I need to utilize his services, but I do tell people about it. The one thing that I would say in regards to that is, you know, it's his base does not mind. In fact, they appreciate, you know, the way he communicates, his energy and whatnot, you know. So, you know, I can see how it could deter those who are not exactly, you know, aligned with him, but those that support him, I'm telling you, they love it. Absolutely love it.
Hey, he said he could kill somebody out there in public and they would embrace him and love him. So I don't doubt what you're saying one bit. You're right. They embrace and accept whatever he says. It's you know, kind of culty. What's your take on this, First Lady Jay?
Before that, First Lady,
people
I'm
think
sorry.
alike.
I'm sorry, First Lady. Real quick, I just want to take the minute to promote the mutant politics. The show. What time the show is today? At 10:30.
10:30, yes, sir.
10:30.
Hold on a second. Wait a second. You got to put the I'm about to say you get that away there exactly. Begun the tariff wars have. So there goes Elon Musk. Elon Windu and Trump Yoda. So yeah, exactly. That's what's up.
So tune in today on the Focus Network, YouTube, Facebook. Tune in. I'm sorry, First Lady. Go ahead, please.
Oh, you're fine. I was just saying, like-minded people think alike. You know, Trump is known for telling lies. Yes, I feel like they're lies, but I also wonder how the rich feel now because I know their pockets got decreased as well. So, you know, a lot of things that they felt was fun and jokes. I don't think they feel like it's fun and jokes right now. And I just don't understand how can so many people be afraid of one man. That's how I look at it. It's like whatever he says, I don't think it's just so much as that they believe him. They just don't want him doing anything to them, you know, because he has proven to a lot of people that he feels like he's above the law. So yes, it's telling lies. I don't care what anyone said. He tells lies to get what he wants, and he wanted the vote. So it's just like a lawyer. I tell people that all the time. Yeah, if you can represent somebody that you know that committed a murder, it goes to say about your morals. All you care about is the dollar sign. And you know, Trump pockets are fat. He doesn't care about the rest of the country.
He just want the whole power. He up there in age. He want the whole power and transfer it to his buddies. That's why they got that JD Vance guy up there. They want him to be his successor, and they're gonna run the same play because they see it working. All these people supporting this man and stepping aside and letting them do a trample on them and Schumer sitting there voting on stuff that he was supposed to be against. Come on, this shit is crazy, man.
So look, only because this is such a hot topic, I'm gonna just throw out a couple of just rebuttals out there real quick, and I appreciate the dialogue. Let me tell you, but in regards to the rich being mad, right? So I'm sure there are certain people who might be mad among the rich, but I'm telling you, those who are aligned with Trump, they see what the play is, because in toppling this system, that means something else must be resurrected, and Trump has been telling you what it's going to be. You know what I mean? So those that's heavily invested in Bitcoins and some of these other tech companies, that exist out there, like Palantir, that was aligned with Trump real heavy and in their donations. Of course, Elon Musk and his franchises, these are going to be winners. You know what I mean? So they're aligned. They're not mad. Let me tell you. And then in regards to, being afraid of the man above the law, I get it. The one thing that Trump did, in particular with these tariffs, is that, he's been able to now put the term emergency on situations to now, unilaterally he becomes like the king that's able to make these decisions and whatnot. And right now, the Democrats, they don't know how to deal with that. You know what I'm saying right now? So they're trying to challenge, his real flexible use of the term emergency. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so that is something that is a very credible.
That's like that was his lie. Sorry, brother. That was his lie about the Canada and the fentanyl issue. He lied and said it was an emergency, so we got to get rid of all of these gangsters and thugs and send them to El Salvador to a training camp. Oops, one got caught who was not one of them. Just a whole list.
Definitely one of my grievances. One thing I'm not happy about for sure. But lastly, not that I'm defending lawyers, per se, but the thing is that here in the U.S., what puts us above and beyond pretty much any other nation is that even when you're accused of a crime, you have the right to representation, no matter how heinous it is. Even if the representation now comes to learn the facts and whatnot, he still has a duty and a job not to get you off, but to represent your best interest, on behalf of you, and then engage with the system of justice we have in place, to ultimately, decide guilt or innocence. And then, it's flawed. Yes, it is. But like I said, the Constitution, that is something that makes people want to come here. Not just the economy, but the fact that you're afforded rights as an individual. So I got to throw that out there.
Nice guy.
So, yeah. So it'd be nice to speak on this topic. But with respect to your toppling the system and replacing it with something else, that's a presumption that what you're going to replace it with is going to be better. I mean, Obama's number one regret that he talks about is he toppled brother Gaddafi. You know what I'm saying? But what they put back, what they allowed to supplement it was worse. So the fact that they didn't even if you're gonna do this, you're gonna take away this one regime. The logic and the thought process is that you're gonna be able to substitute it with something better, and that's not necessarily a logical presumption to make, especially when you're dealing with people that's not really demonstrating a very good grasp of how economics works. Let's talk about these tariffs, okay? He talks about trade deficits. These trade deficits, it's not just the issue of they charge us 10%, so we charge them 10%. If he did that, a lot of people were on board. They're saying, like, you know what? That's fair is fair. A lot of people said, hey, that's a good idea. That's not what they're doing. He's come up with some cockamamie formula that, people are getting overtaxed because more product is going to them that's going to us, but it's the nature of what's being sent. It's not a function of just saying, okay, we sell 100 units to them. They need to sell 100 units to us. No, it's a function of demand. Go ahead.
I haven't heard one expert say, hey, the formula he used is understandable. This is what he's trying to do. I haven't heard one expert. I know, like what the student expert saying that we know experts on it. None of us are, but nobody that's coming out saying, "Yeah, I get what he's doing. It makes sense."
There's only one, but he's also a single fan with his administration. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean?
Man.
But and not only that, but just to understand that the way the tariffs work, you got to understand. It's a tax. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a tax. But it's not a tax that the other country pays. It's a tax that the people here, the importers, pay. and they will pass that on to you, and it will drive up prices. So you're talking about the person that keeps talking about bringing prices down. Well, he says, look, I want to bring jobs here, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? You could argue that's a noble thing, but it's not necessarily more efficient for us to do certain products, to produce certain products here, if we can acquire them way cheaper elsewhere. That's why when you're affecting people's lifestyle, him trying to force everything back here is going to drive prices up. That's a reality. And it'd be great if other people get jobs behind this and stuff like that, but that's not going to change. I'm not going to get any more money behind this. But what I am going to do is my dollar is going to go a whole lot less further because of it. So that's the reality.
Hey, real quick, thank you, First Lady, for correcting us. We misspelled the Liberation Day. The correct way to say it is Liaration Day. Thank you, First Lady, for making that correction. All right, we ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll be digging deeper on the show, so 10:30.
The Mutant Politics, 10:30. Begun the tariff wars have. All right. Is that the way Yoda talk or something?
That's exactly the way Yoda talk.
All right, so
hopefully don't get in trouble for that.
Yeah. So in sad news, we just talked about the guy, but the president is stepping down. So this is sad news. Everybody, let me get the picture of the president. The president is stepping down. Go ahead. You got something to say about this, Mr. Nice Guy?
Well, look, he was always supposed to be just sort of like a task guy, that he was in for a particular task to do his task and move on. And the way that Trump describes it and says it, he goes, look, he's a businessman. He's got his businesses to run. He's got his things to get in order. And I will definitely say, if there's someone who's really taken a hit by all of this stuff, it's Elon Musk. He got some favorable things. He got some things, whatever. But the reality is, Tesla, who markets to basically an audience that he's basically driving away by partnering with Trump, has been basically the result of it is that they've been dealing with terrible sales losses, bad imagery, just a whole bunch of problems. So it'd be best for Elon Musk to separate from this and just do his stuff, do the SpaceX stuff, do the stuff that's actually successful that he does, which was pretty much never Tesla. But that's what it is. But that having been said, the Democrats are making it like, Trump is getting rid of him. He was always only in there for a period. But I know the Student X has got something to say about this.
I mean, other than I can't wait till we talk about Russia, because that's gonna I'll be able to drive home some points in regards to this. But in regards to Elon leaving, he's not going anywhere. His imprint is firmly in place. Elon did not get to where he's at without being a master task manager through delegation while verifying the completion of the set instructions that he gives out. So he has, whether you want to call them minions, or colleagues, he has those individuals in place, and there's some of the smartest individuals on the planet. There's systems in place to where, Elon, absolutely has influence, and the job's going to continue to get done with Doge. And thank God, because it's long overdue. And this is the only reason why, domestic policy wise, I have, Trump in that C+ range. Otherwise, I'm not too happy with a few other things, but this Doge is absolutely wonderful.
First Lady J, you got some type of take on this?
Him stepping down, I feel like I look at it this way. Everybody's a friend to Trump, but Trump is not a friend to them. So Trump looks out for himself, and that's just how I feel. My take on this is him stepping down, he looking out for himself. That's just how I look at it.
All right.
How you feel about Doge? You think Doge is doing a stand-up job over there? Do you trust Doge? Because yeah, exactly. The theory
Ninja,
of Doge
please.
is noble. Yeah, exactly.
Ninja, please. I need to put that on the shirt. Thank you, Mr. Charles X. Ninja, please.
Ninja, please. All right, listen, man. This is how I feel about the president stepping down. I gather my youthful inner self, my 20-year-old self, and I say GTFOM. H. All right. So we ready to move on to Putin on the Ritz. That was coined, I believe, by Nice Guy.
That's right. I was saying that because Ritzen is basically playing somebody. You know what I'm saying? And Trump's been talking about, I'm going to be this master negotiator. I'm going to do this. Putin, we're going to work it out. Putin has respect for me, and Putin basically was like, "Yeah,
you saying he lied again?"
Well, it seems something like that. Put it this way, he exaggerated the reality until a lie. But yeah, so he basically Putin's like, nah, you know what? I don't like none of your ideas. I think that this dude needs to come down. They need to get rid of Zelensky. They need to have an election, a fair election and all this other stuff. He putting all of these almost ridiculous, stipulations onto this deal type situation, to the extent that it even got Trump angry at Putin, and he even confessed it with his lips. It was kind of crazy to hear him say that, but still, that's the situation. So, go ahead, Mr. Student X. I know you got something to say about the greatest leader in modern history, Putin. You know what I'm saying? That's what you believe, right?
Bruh, so absolutely. Let me say that. I'll stop short of saying I'm a fan, but in terms of just studying how the man has moved since he's been in office for these 25, plus years, it is pretty amazing. But before I go any further, man, let me throw a shout out to Mark, Cram Carm. Subscribe to him, man. He's a talented artist. He does, piano, guitar, eccentric, type of dude, so, I got to throw a shout out to him. He's always on the show, commenting and whatnot. So shout out for sure. Going back to Putin now, look, the way Mr. Nice summed up, that's not quite it, man. So of course Putin rejected these terms, if you will, being presented by Trump, as did Iran, whatever terms that were presented. Like, I don't know if it's like, if Trump is being misinformed or he's playing stupid, but the way he's approaching these leaders, it doesn't even line up with everyone knows what the truth is. So as he told Zelensky when he was there, I call him Agent Zelensky, as he told Agent Zelensky, when he was in the White House before he got kicked out, is that the Russians are in the driver's seat. They have all the leverage, and so Putin would not accept a deal that does not reflect that reality. And that, and of course, this will have conditions. The deal will have to have conditions, and it won't be before he completes his military objectives, which, include creating a barrier now between Russia and Ukraine, that'll put more distance so that, weapons in the future, if this was the re-implode, could not impact Russia in the same way. He also, being Putin, I love him, he's ordered the denazification of Ukraine. And once again, he has also established that that Ukraine would never be a part of NATO. So honestly, if Trump wants peace and he was smart, he would agree to every condition Russia says, period. U.S. has no leverage. We all know that this has been a proxy war between the U.S. and Ukraine, and this is the only reason why, it's taking so long to ultimately, shut this thing down. But, Crimea is now Russia, completely, not even, no dispute anymore. Constitutionally, what was already recognized as part of Russia was Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Lugansk. They'll never be yielded. So understand, man, Putin ain't no motherfucking joke. If I could keep it real, you have not seen nothing like him as a leader and whatnot, and this man, is legit as they come, So believe that. Let me
ask you this, Student X. I'm no expert on it, but is there any benefit that America gets by giving Putin everything he wants? Well, how does America as a whole benefit from that?
They're going to benefit for no longer wasting resources on something that, was never achievable. If the only objective the U.S. had, those that were in the Democrat Party and the neocons, that surrounded them, was they just wanted to kill as many Russians as they can. And they did succeed in killing, well over 100,000 Russians. But the only problem is that over 1 million Ukrainians have been killed. You know what I mean? You know, and they're being decimated. You know, they're being put in a meat grinder, and it's unnecessary. All this loss of life. It should stop. You know, and you know that alone would be a benefit to the U.S. You know, to have now some mercy on the Ukrainian people who are under the tyranny of literally Nazis. You know what I mean? Like straight up Hitler supporting. You know, killing Jews and others, you know what I mean, Nazis, you know, empowered,
nice
you know what I mean,
guy.
which is wild.
Nice guy. What do you got to say to that?
Okay, see, brother, you keep bringing up that whole Nazi thing, and we've established, dude, there's a faction of Nazi in it, just like there's a faction of Nazi in United States of America. There's a faction of Nazi in MAGA. You know, Nazi, basically all that stuff, they learned that stuff from America. You know what I'm saying? You know, Hitler and all this stuff. This was all basically at the feet of Jim Crow. Right. So, you know, this whole concept of Nazi, that's a misconception.
Let me stop you, brother. Let me stop you because I just want to stop you only because, and I'm not trying to be rude and interrupt, but the thing is, bro, is that I mean, you know, I love you, brother, but you just don't know what you're talking about, brother. You know what I mean? You know, if you go back to 1956, you know, this is those who got lifted up. You know, you know, these people from the Banderas nationalists, you know, they were being funded by the CIA in 1956, you know, just so they could be in position to be, you know, those that would be Russian, because if you remember, Russia are the biggest Nazi killers on the planet. They're the ones who ultimately won World War II. You know, at the end of the day, they're the ones who had the greatest losses and the most kills. You know, inside of that whole.
None of that has to do with what I'm talking about. I don't.
It does. And so the CIA that lifted these people to power, they are the controlling part. They're not a little faction. They are the government. You know what I mean?
The government is Zelensky, who is Jewish.
No, bro, you don't understand. So you gotta understand why I call him Agent Zelensky. The way Zelensky came into power was there was an audition for a TV show, and then ultimately this TV show was gonna cast the person in the CIA funded. They were gonna cast this person in the role on this TV show to be the president, and ultimately this person after playing this role was gonna be lifted up in real politics and then become their mole. And so this is a CIA British MI6 asset, Agent Zelensky. Everyone knows it, bro, that is in this community in terms of, intelligence, securing our borders and whatnot, military. You know what I mean? It's widely accepted and talked about openly. You know what I mean? So it's not even a secret.
Let me ask you this, Student X. If that's the case, why is Trump treating his agents so bad?
Because Trump is not the one who brought him into power. If you realize that Trump, he's been at war with all the alphabets. You know what I mean? Not just LGBTQ plus, like people want to just put out there, but the CIA, the FBI, he's been in war with the deep state is what it's called ultimately. You know what I mean? And the deep state and the neocons and these factions that have benefited, from, the killing, the killings that are taking place in this conflict, those are the ones who were pushing this, not Trump.
Hey,
real quick. Don't forget Antifa too. He was against Antifa too.
I'm against Antifa.
Real quick, yeah. J-Walk wanted to chime in on this topic.
Let's get them, girls.
Hey, on the real, if J-Walk were here, I feel like if he listened to this, man, he over there pumping his fist, you know what I mean? Because I'm bringing that heat, I'm bringing that fire, the truth. You know what I mean? And the truth is what is ultimately the reality of the situation. So that's where it's at.
He was cheering you on. I think he got it wrong. He said
240 pounds. Tell him
6'5", 260 right now. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? But and I only share this perspective because our community has been misled the grades on damn near everything, bro. That's why we're in the condition we're in ultimately. You know what I mean? We're being misinformed, and then ultimately, like I said, I'm always about accountability. We got some choices we need to make. And I'm telling you, these people been lying to us about this from day one. If you were rooting for someone, why wouldn't it be the ones who was killing the Nazis, the ones that hate your black ass? You know what I'm saying? But instead we were rooting on those that were, who enslaved you instead. That's
the way I feel about MAGA. That's the way I feel about MAGA. You made some great points. The people that enslaved my ass and hurt my ass. Exactly. That's exactly.
First Lady. First Lady, did your cough clear up, or should we ask you how do you feel about you sure?
And look, man, look, I guarantee
Student X, I got a question for you, Student X, brother. If you're saying that Zelensky is all this terrible person that he is, why would Trump be willing to continue to support, to send money them for him to fight if he just gives him some of that mineral stuff? If he gives him some mineral stuff.
So first of all, I'm not saying that Zelensky is this terrible person. I'm saying that he's a muppet. Even if you know, so he's not the master, you know, he's just the actor at the end of the day, you know, so that's not, you know, who we're concerned with and whatnot. In terms of Trump, you know, it has been relayed that Trump now start allowing some aid that's already been previously promised, you know, which through the court battles and whatnot, it seems as if he has to do this, allow that continuing the aid to roll through, but nothing new has been authorized. So I will give Trump credit, you know, to that effect, you know, as far as I know in my research right now, you know, so, you know, we'll see how it plays out, you know, I mean, but clearly the base that Trump has, you know, as well as the majority of American people want this conflict to end.
No doubt. I think the majority of this panel wants the conflict to end. You know, that's just how that is. But again, you know, we're talking about that. You know, this guy is basically just going to capitulate. And I mean, I thought that was a great response that you had, Student X. What's the benefit to America? Not spending a dime more on this thing that pretty much no one else wants them to continue to do. Great point. But you know.
So you want to address that the Tommy prank?
Yes, let's talk about the nephew Tommy prank. Okay, I see that I just misspelled Jasmine Crockett. I apologize for my dyslexia, disrespecting that sister. But yes, First Lady J was the first person that brought this to my attention, and I probably shouldn't be the one speaking on it because I didn't completely get through it. But let me tell you what I heard. First of all, nephew Tommy is hilarious. I really don't like the pranking thing, but I still acknowledge and respect, you know, the art that's being done and the humor. And I'm just telling you, what I heard was hilarious. You know what I'm saying? And she handled it like a champ. I mean, I would have been hung up on that dude. You know what I'm saying? She showed you that she was really about what she's about. She showed you that she's the absolute rock star that a lot of us, 3/4 of us, think that she actually is. But I'm just saying that, you know, this was probably inappropriate. As I understand, she kind of read him down for doing this, you know, in light of that stuff. And I wish I had that context to speak on from a first person, you know, from you know, firsthand experience. But I'm gonna pass this off to First Lady J. Did you listen to the whole thing?
I did listen to the whole thing. She handled it very well. And, you know, in the end, she barely wanted to say what was the baddest radio station. And then basically, you know, she was letting him know, like, everything that I'm dealing with right now is not the time to be pranking. You know, he was letting her know, like, I just had to, you know, but she carried herself very classy with it. You know, one of my favorite comments that she was making was like, you know, I'm going to pass this on to my staff. You know, like, you know, she said it more than once that she was going to pass it on to the staff. It was comical, but she didn't act like some of the other callers that get pranked by him. She was very classy with it. You know, it went as far as the bleach blonde situation. You know, she didn't know, like, you see what I did with that one. Like, you know, she wasn't biting her tongue, but she didn't find it comical at all in the end because of everything that she's currently dealing with. And she even had other people, like psychiatrists, other people that had her back, like, you know, there's a time and a place to prank people, but nephew Tommy felt like, you know, he needed to bring a little humor and just admit that you got pranked. And when I believe he told her that Crump gave her his number, and she was like, you know, felt like since he gave her the number, you know, it's like, okay, but she wasn't pleased in the end. But, you know, she finally, like, you know, gave them their little shout out for the baddest, but it's not.
Go ahead, do the next. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was gonna be my exact point, and sister touch on the very last. The reason why it continued was, she respecting, Crump, and used to work, in the office and everything else, and the fact that he would give this man her number, she had to take it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, who the hell is this? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, but I will say for sure, without a doubt, she handled it like a champ. There's no doubt about it. She handled it very skillfully. But you know what? In truth, when people say that and even when I say, that I don't, I'm not a fan of hers, it's never the sister, themselves as, a black woman. You know what I mean? It's never, the fact that, this sister isn't brilliant and intelligent and everything that our sisters are, you know what I mean? My only criticism always ends up being what we support and the moral compass, in which, we've accepted, at the end of the day, that's been my problem. And like, it's crazy how many sisters turned on, our sister Felicia Rashad, that has such grace and elegance and whatnot, and when she offered, a critique, and I'm saying it was done in love and in the best of spirit, and done with, maximizing the English language, she still was lambasted, what I mean?
We're gonna have to speak on that. We're gonna have to speak on that. We're gonna have to speak on Felicia Rashad. That was a good interview, and she was a respectable. Oh, from day one, she has never stepped or did something disrespectful towards black people. Her and her sister Debbie Allen always represented well. But back on our sister Jasmine Crockett, I salute that sister. She is a respectable person. I know she get out there and she could talk her SHIT and she could go head to head with the best of them. I got a lot of respect for that sister Jasmine Crockett, and I'm looking forward to what's in the future for her. And
I bet you she can go head to head with me. Get her on this show. You know what I mean? And when we come with the unscripted reality of situations, and people know that, they know what they're talking about because cite sources, I bet you she gonna look like a small person. I was about to say something else. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna look real small.
Hey,
real small.
She gonna have a Hot Wheels designation for you too, brother.
hey, look, she can have one because I guarantee you, if we go there, I could go tit for tat with the best of them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but no, on the real, like I said, sister, never a criticism of her intelligence and her beauty and her elegance, if you will. She can, she'll put that ghetto on you too. You know what I mean? But that's, we call that keeping it real. You know what I mean? So it just is what it is. But, like I said, I just wish that sister wasn't representing the values of the Democrats, you know what I mean? And what they've been promoting, and then I'd be a super fan.
Yeah, too bad what the Republicans are promoting. But yeah, that having been said, like, share, subscribe, and comment, interact with us. If you want to come on the show, let us know. The bottom line is, subscribe to the pages, put ideas, go to the Focus Up, Facebook page. You want to talk about some topics. We're trying to put topics out there throughout the course of the week. Not only the topics that we do discuss, but topics we may discuss, topics that we might discuss the following week. So the bottom line is you let us know what you want to hear, what you want to talk about it. We're going to speak about it. And we're always going to do it with respect and love for each other. And that's how we get down here.
All right. Thank y'all for watching the show. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. We out of here.